Welcome back to the Rose City Breakdown. I'm joined by the smart one, Melina Gaspar. Melina, how are you doing today?
Hey, Fook, doing well in World Cup mode. So enjoying the football and uh, so many posts on social media is hard to keep up.
Yeah, there's so many games every day, and honestly, like I've been keeping it like I think I keep up pretty much with like I would say a few games every day, Like I can't watch all four, obviously. Like I think that's just too many games. But obviously like your countryman, Leo Messi, like that's pretty cool to see. But there's been so many great moments, you know what I mean? Whether it's like I'm just thinking about like all the games I watch and like there's some results where you're just like Spain, wow, you know what I mean? Like or Canada today, you know what I mean? And then obviously the heartbreaking injury there too. So there's a lot of like moments where you're like very happy, but you're also very sad. And I think that encapsulates what the World Cup means. And for the Men's World Cup to kind of deliver on so many great moments already, like I was really worried about a lot of blowouts, honestly, with the extended format. But I think you and I are both kind of in the same page. We're like, oh, this is a great tournament so far, but when Brazil hosts it next year, especially with the bad blood brewing between the U.S. and Brazil, I think everyone's more excited, getting more excited about that tournament, right? So, looking forward to that. But Melina, you and I are here for one specific reason. So, obviously, I want to call it a mid-season report card, but we can call it early season. Doesn't really matter to me. Close enough to the mid-season point where we can kind of chat about this. But heading into the break, the Portland Thorns are tied for second. With goal differential, the third in the NWSL table behind what San Diego Wave, and we're talking about Utah Royals as well, who's kind of been the Cinderella story of the NWSL season so far. Everybody's rooting for that team, the underdogs and everything like that. But then you have San Diego Wave, who metrically, Melina, are so dominant defensively and attack wise as well. But then they just lost an MVP candidate in Dudinha for the season. So this season is as open as ever. You and I are going to have the next episode, which is a little spoiler for everyone. I think everyone's gonna be excited for this one, but we are going to talk about the summer window, right? The transfer window, and some targets that that the priorities that the Portland Thorns probably will have this summer window, and a lot more in regards to that, right? Whether it's you're looking at sixes, you're looking at center backs, things like that. But we will have a full length discussion on that in the next episode. But for this episode, we have a report card. And I think it's a really interesting one because we are talking about a team. Melina and I both feel like, yes, they have gotten more results maybe than they deserve. If you look at the metrics, you look at a lot of like XG differential, things like that, but they've one of the things that we've seen is the defensive shape has gotten better for sure. The attackers, especially the front four, have gotten their money's worth in goals and assists for sure. Uh, Young players are stepping up, right? Robert Villaham hasn't overhauled the whole system or anything like that, and he's come in and just kind of elevated players, put them in better positions to succeed better than his predecessor at the very least, right? Sarah Loudon's led the team into the preseason, into early season as well. Robert Villaham taking over without a preseason and making it work as he goes, right? And he's just kind of been go, go, go since he's gotten here. Then you look at the front four, right? Like Kai Hanks is about to come back. I think the what Villaham said was July or August. He's hoping obviously for the early end. And then Morgan Weaver's a month behind, so they'll have those attackers ready to go. Obviously, they'll be worked into the rotation. But then you look at just the reinforcements coming up, right? Julie DeFore probably during the fall as well, right? So there's a lot of great things going to be happening for the Portland Thorns coming up, but there are also a lot of question marks that still remain as well. So, Melina, let's start off with goalkeeper right now. So, Morgan Messner and Mackenzie Arnold. I also wrote a piece that I think folks will be able to read before they listen to us, or they might be doing it at the same time. Like, that would be amazing if they can multitask, something I can't do very well, Melina, something you can do very well. But but looking at goalkeeper, right? Like I just want to start off with this. I think Morgan Messner, what she had to do for the first three games, come in and deliver solid performances. The defense holding up in front of her, back-to-back shutouts, first Portland Thorn to ever do that in club history, and she's one of only three goalkeepers, Nadine Unger and Bella Bixby, to record a in regular season debut shutout as well. So that was really cool to start off with. And if y'all haven't read my feature on Morgan Messner's, kind of dream debut, as she calls it, please do. I think it's a great story for sure. But just look at what Morgan Messner provided in the early season. I think there was a lot of question marks at goalkeeper. Oh, is Morgan Messner going to be able to step up, or is she going to be, um, or is it going to be too much for her to live in that moment, right? Because we're talking about some massive games at Washington, against Seattle, against San Diego Wave. And San Diego Wave, obviously, the short week game, Portland did pay them back later on, but it was one of those scheduling games where you're just like, man, that early to play a midweek game is pretty ridiculous scheduling. Um, but yeah, you're looking at that, and then looking at Mackenzie Arnold. I think when I looked at the stats, she like per 90 for you know goals prevented, she leads, but per um, just overall during the season, she's third, right? And I think for me, when I look at this group, Melina, I think they've delivered everything that you could pretty much ask for. I think the distribution you want more from both keepers, right? Whenever they're in. Obviously, Mester hasn't played for a little bit, but with Mackenzie Arnold, I think one of the big things is you can tell like she comes from like a background. I think she said she played midfielder when she was younger. You can tell she has a lot of those attributes. But the way Portland's playing right now, the structure, they're getting the ball out quick. They're playing very direct. There's not a lot of cohesiveness all the time, Melina, to how they play. But you can tell they want to play from the back more often, and Mackenzie Arnold is able to get those balls, long distance balls, into the forwards, right? To whether it's Raylan Turner or to Pietra Torden, who have been doing pretty well with their aerial abilities. But just looking at what they're trying to do, Melina, it seems like I'm looking at from the goalkeepers. So I gave them Melina, I gave them an A minus because I thought they've delivered for the most part. I think the defense ahead of them has been a little sus at times, especially on the road. But when I looked at it, I looked at all the metrics, especially goals prevented, like I said, and just saves. Mackenzie Arnold is being asked to save a lot of games, Melina, right? She's I think second in the league for saves per game as well. How many times have we seen her with six or seven or eight saves a game where she's needing to stand on her head and needing to bail out this team, right? And it's been too often, and the metrics back that up, right? And I think that's when you look at Portland keepers. I know Mackenzie Arnold does not get a lot of attention or appreciation, especially on the internet, for folks who just remember past mistakes and things like that. I understand looking back at the past, but we're looking at the present now, Melina, and she's been delivering, in my opinion, on every given week. But Melina, I would love to hear your thoughts on the goalkeeping group this season.
Well, I think what you said about Morgan Messner at some point, and we were kind of worried when we heard about Bella getting injured. It was a big blow for her, for pretty much everybody that covers the team. And but yeah, there she was, Morgan Messner, reliable presence on goal. So yeah, the few times we could see her defending the Thorns goal, it was great. It was like more than great. So yeah, regarding Mackenzie Arnold, we have said many times before how she has been improving and she's reliable enough. But what you mentioned, the fact that she has to be better with distribution and more so under pressure, it's a big thing that she still needs to improve. And I don't know if she listens to our podcast, so hopefully she won't hate me or anything. But it's like she has international caps under her belt, many of them. So playing big tournaments and all that. But still, like sometimes I think she needs a little bit more to be like world class, like that she's gonna come in clutch and all that. And she has some games that she has done that. But the way that sometimes Portland defend when they're higher, she kind of gets a little bit exposed, or sometimes she will be off her line and won't get it right. So those are the kind of things she still needs to polish. even though she's not 20 anymore. I don't know how old is she, to be honest, but she's not the youngest, you know? And sometimes it's kind of hard to polish those things when you are older. But yeah, she has proven that she can improve from one season to another. So hopefully we will see like McCarnell 3.0 at the end of the season. And so that's why I my grade for the goalkeepers is B plus.
Mhm.
Um, I'm not very used to this kind of like grading system. Here we have a different one based in numbers. So for me, numbers are more accurate. So yeah, for me, it's B plus.
Yeah, no, I was Melina. It's funny because I was flip-flopping from B plus to A minus, but I think for me, I gave them the boost just because of the situation they're put in, especially with the back line situation, right? Like we're talking about the rotation of center backs, consistently, right? Like they've been asked to do so much more. You know what I mean? Like Morgan Messer's situation in particular, like asking her to step in to these big moments I thought was a little bit too risky and too much to ask for at the time, and she delivered, right? And the defense held up. And the reason why I want to head into the like, and here's the thing, you could, I think some folks might even give them a lower grade. Some folks might even want to give them a higher grade, but I think it depends on where you put the fault of the, the goals given up, right? Because they've given up 14 goals. 12 of those goals have come on the road. Who do you fault that more often, right? More on the goalkeeping situation, more on the team in general, or more on the back line, right? So the next part we're going to talk about is the back line. We're talking about Sam Hyatt. We're talking about Jaden Perry. We're talking about Issa Bays. We're talking Caroline Calzada. We're talking about the great fullback room with Reina Reyes, Emma Vignola, Marie Mueller when she plays there, or if not, she's gonna be a winger. Whether she's scoring for club or international at this point. Um, and then we're also talking about Mally McKenzie, who's been kind of like in and out of like the attackers and the fullback group as well. But we've gotten to see this group, Melina. I think at home they're just straight up dominant, right? We're talking about 2 goals given up. It was both against Utah Royals in this past game, but they had like the longest shutout streak in NWSL history for home games, which was really it was great to watch. Obviously, just to see how their commitment to defense. But here's the thing: a lot of the bounces did go their way, right, Melina? We're talking about this team, um, and I'll let you start off first with your thoughts, and I'll chime in with mine. But I think for me, I'll just kind of spoil my opinion a little bit. I do think a lot of the fault goes on to the team defense for sure, but I think just the constant rotation of the center backs doesn't help the chemistry. And they've been caught, you know, a little bit on in road games for sure. But Melina, what are your thoughts on the back line so far this season?
Well, yeah, it's one of the things we have discussed how they keep rotating the players in the back line. So, but still, it's mostly five players that keep rotating and they have some sort of stability by now. I understand the rotations and all that, but still, you historically the Thorns have had a pair of center backs and they will be reliable and they will rely on them. And if one of them got it wrong, the other will cover for the other. So that's kind of like something that it's weird not to see in the past or this season or the past one. So regarding defenders, well, we have said that Reina Reyes, it's good with progress in the ball, connecting, making link up plays, and she's a very good defender. Um, but the thing is, sometimes she gets caught too high, or depending on because we know her role, she has to do kind of two different roles. Kind of her defensive positioning still fluctuates. I remember when we analyzed the game against Utah, she was coming back late, and there was this player open on the far post. So that happens to her, and let's say it's like a little bit of a liability, but it's not, let's say, entirely her fault because it's the position she's playing that she needs to go higher, and sometimes her teammates won't cover for her at the right time. So, but yeah, she's one of Portland's most reliable defenders. Then Sam Hyatt, well, one of the captains, she has been doing good, but we have said before that physically she's not dominant, and sometimes like if she's dealing with explosive, fast forwards, she will usually, well, I don't know if usually, but she will lose. She will lose the battle sometimes. So that's kind of like not a very good thing for the center back. I think we have been very spoiled in the past because well, Portland had Becky Sauerbrunn, for example, or Emily Menges. So it's kind of hard sometimes to get used to different style of players um when you have had those kind of center backs in the past. And regarding Isabella Obeys, well, she's young, so she is usually more athletic than Hyatt, and defending spaces is kind of like her thing. But sometimes, since she's young, her decision making is something that doesn't help her too much. Marie Mueller, well, she's coming back from injury, so but she's kind of like doing great progress game by game. So, but we know that NWSL is a very physical league, so she still needs to like get used to it again. But other than that, technically, she's one of the best in the team, I guess, regarding the backline mostly. And she's pretty smart, when with her movements. And last player I'm gonna mention is Vignola. And Vignola is interesting case because when she was traded, we were kind of like, wow, who is this player? And like everybody kind of not forgot about Ina Sugira, but they like the trade made sense when we saw her play. But sometimes we know she has this task to go also to the final third and help there, but she's not as consistent as Mari Mueller and Reina Reyes. So sometimes I think that's why the Thorns will prefer to go through the right instead of the left. But yeah, she's full of energy, so that helps with both tasks she has to do. So those are the players I'm gonna analyze because the other haven't played that much, and so it's kind of like difficult to grade them, and that's why I'm gonna give the backline a B. I would say also a B plus could be okay because I consider that the goalkeepers and the defenders are kind of like a unit. So I'm kind of like undecided between B and B plus.
It's interesting because I have it at a B minus, okay? And I was fluctuating between B minus and even lower, possibly, right? It's mainly, but Melina, it's mainly because of the road form, right? It scares me to look when we looked at the film study on the road games, especially in your corner, right? Your segment, and we analyzed it, we're just like, man, some of the miscommunication on the road, it's just inexcusable, right? Like it just happens over and over. They're getting overloaded on the same side and they're not really making adjustments enough, right? And it might be a coaching situation for sure. It might be something, but Villingham tactically is going to get better as he goes, right? He's going to get used to his personnel. But I'm looking at this. So I have a different grade for fullbacks and center backs, Melina. So that's why it's combined that way. I have a lower grade for the center backs than the fullbacks. I I see Vignola a little differently than you. I think she brings a different element to the game, right? She is a speedster who has the ability to be offensive minded, right? So I really like that from her. But I think when you want the ball handlers to be a little bit more composed, that's Marie Mueller. That's more Reina Reyes' style, right? And they will, like we said, Reina Reyes is one of like the most underrated ball progressors, right? Like you don't really notice it because she does it so physically and she does it so like discreetly, right? And then you look at Marie Mueller, she does it with so much like flash and pizzazz where you're like, oh my gosh, like she just steamrolling down the pitch. You know what I mean? Like she gets there in 2 seconds. You know what I mean? Like that's how she does it. And Reina does it more tactically, and she knows her limitations as a player, right? What and people are always gonna bring up her speed. And I think that's what scares me because I think in a five back she would be perfect as a wing back, right? She's talked about this in the past. She's like, oh, if I was a wing back, I would be going forward probably more often. And I believe her because I think she has that skill set. She delivers good balls into the box when she gets the opportunity. And when Portland's bombarded, they just don't have the ability. And when she just kind of held back, it just doesn't really make sense. I think that's what Portland hasn't unleashed her enough this season, right? Then you look at Marie Mueller, like I think when you look at the stats, when you look at the metrics, I think you look at the eye test and you look at the metrics, you're like, wow, this player passes both tests, right? And she continues to get better on every given week, like you mentioned. And for me, those are the three fullbacks. I still think they are one of the, I would say, the top two best fullback groups in the league, and they've been pretty consistent. I think some games, like especially on the road, they get a little overrun, especially on Reina Reyes' side. I think they've been going at her a little bit more, and then they'll try her side, and then they'll try Vignola's side most of the time. But I'm curious how they're going to divide the minutes because I think Marine does need to go back to playing fullback because that's just her dominant position, right? So you do want to see her back there. But depends on the health of the forwards, obviously. And then you look at the center backs, Melina Calzada. I think she brings like an element of speed that they just don't have. But her distribution from the back, especially against the press, has just not been there, right? But here's the thing: the reason why I like this player, Melina, is because she works her tails off, right? She works her tail off every single game. The work rate is there. Um, and she wins the ball. Like she reads the game really well, but I think sometimes like you said, she gets caught sometimes, right? And she plays passes that are very audacious, Melina, like very ambitious passes. Where I'm just like, I wouldn't, And then sometimes she'll just make, she just the passes just aren't clean enough. They don't hit the player in stride, things like that. It just the attention to detail, like she'll get better. Like there's no doubt in my mind she'll get way better. And then Jaden Perry, I think still she's already become one of the league's best center back long ball distributors, right? Like especially with Raylan Turner. Apparently those two, the college connection there, Melina has been shining, obviously. But yeah, she just the 90-minute performances from Jaden Perry. I need to see 90 minutes, without losing an assignment, without losing her mark, because those are the things that people will remember more than the great pass, right? And then you look at Sam Hyatt. She, when I was looking at metrics of other center backs, doing research, right, for the summer window and things like that, she's just in the top 10 of so many metrics, Melina. Holy moly, right? The reason why this backline works, the reason why I gave them the B rate, the B minus, B right? Range for the grade is because they lead the league in clearances per game. Okay, that's why what they've been doing works, right? But on the road, for some reason, it has not translated. I know when Villaham explained it, obviously every team would like to play better on the road, but for me, it's just like I just want to see more consistency. I'm not looking for perfection, right? I'm looking for when we provide these grades, we're looking for a lot better there, right? But Sam High, I think, has been playing probably her best football she can play. I don't know if she can play much better than this, Melina. I really don't. And it's unfortunate because I think she does need a sidekick next to her, whether it's Obeys, because Obeys, those two are going to be the center back pairing unless they add one. I don't think Portland, like my gut says, they are really happy with their center back group. Would I personally add a specific center back to this group? Yes, I would. Like I think they need more from like especially distribution from these center backs, and they're just not getting it right now. Okay, especially playing out of the press, you need to be clinical in your passes and your distribution, and you have to be quick with your decisions, right? I don't think they have the personnel to do it right now, right? And that's why I gave them the B minus. I think the fullbacks have been better at that than the center backs, but the center backs have not given enough out of the press, in my opinion. But defensively, they have given as much as they can, especially at home. They've been dominant on the road. They've been a little not good enough to be honest with you. And then, but yeah, that's why B minus. And then let's go to midfielder Melina now. And it's interesting because if you told me the first two names on the list, I would just be like, oh, that's an A plus automatically, right? So you look at Olivia Moultrie, MVP candidate already, 5 goals, 4 assists, leads the team in both, tied for the team lead in both. Uh, what else is there to say? Olivia Moultrie's a superstar. We know this for a fact. But the one thing I really love this year is Jessie Fleming has been getting her flowers from every single person from the team, whether it's coaches, her own colleagues, media pundits now. People understand how important she is, how good she is as a footballer. Her work rate obviously has already been 101, right? If you just told me those two players, but then here's the issue: Portland doesn't have a six they can depend on every week. Okay, and Bulgaria, I do think she's improving defensively. I think her work rate is there, Melina, but her passing. We've talked about this every single week. It's not good enough, right? You got to like the amount of backward back passing or lateral passes. It's too much right now. Okay, if she needs to get the ball forward a little bit more, especially when Portland is trying to get out of pressure. She has not helped enough in that department, okay, Melina, and that's disappointing to me because when you saw Jenny Ibbotson hop on for what is it, half an hour cameo, she looked fantastic in her role, right? In those 30 minutes, you're like, okay, is that something Bulgaria can replicate or not? You know what I mean? If the answer is a no, then you got to go get a six, right? Right? Because I'm looking at the timing of Ibbotson's contract, Melina. It ends, I think, what is it, end of July? So it's a curious situation because you're like, huh, why did they end it there? Why did they just sign her through the whole season, right? Because Renee Lyles got her contract through the whole season, and then obviously. The last thing we should mention about the center back group, Diane's not coming back. She's going to stay with in Liga MX Femenil. I think that was something that you and I foresaw, like right when this move happened, and it makes sense for both parties involved. They have too many center backs at this point. But back to the midfielders, Bulgaria have not seen enough. Shea Harvey had the one start. She's had a few minutes there and there. Not much to say about that. I think the one opportunity she had, she was not set up for success, is because Bulgaria had her red card. So Shea Harvey had to play against San Diego Wave, who have like 60% of the ball in every game, and that did not go well. Ibbotson, I think, has a lot of potential. Obviously, just seeing that little cameo role, but uh, looking at this whole group together, Melina, I think, like I said, Olivia Moulton and Jesse Fleming. I don't know if they can play much better, but I need Jesse Fleming to have a real like partner next to her. If they're gonna run a double pivot, give her a traditional six who can do a little bit of everything, so she can get in front, right? Because Melina, you have showed some great clips of her igniting the counterattack, igniting the attack in general, and it's because she's able to get forward, right? And I don't think Jessie Fleming's had the ability to do that because she's defending too much. But I gave this group, I think I gave this group an A minus, if I'm correct. I might have gave it a B plus. I can't remember, but yeah, it's one of those. But Melina, what are your thoughts on the midfielder?
Yeah, I think B plus is fair. So I'm gonna go with that because, well, like you mentioned, when you look at Jesse and Olivia, of course, this is their season to shine, and they are doing just that. One thing that maybe fans or whoever listens to this podcast won't agree with me is that I know Sophia is the most valuable player, and usually if they have the opportunity to score, they will give the ball to her. But looking at the past season, it's like this team learned to play without her, and this team little by little became not Sophia's team but Olivia's team because she's the one really making a difference here. And in the when she's on or when she's not, she kind of like covers so many spots on the field and helps with pretty much every line. And maybe her defense game is not the best, but that's not her responsibility anyways. But she still shows up to help there to give a hand. So for me, this is Olivia Moultrie's team, and I consider her the most valuable player for the Thorns. And well, the only thing I can say regarding Jessie Fleming is that she's not a game changer. But I think it's because, like you said, like Sam Haya needs a body. I think Fleming needs a body as well. You know, somebody that can allow her to go forward. And I don't expect her to be top goal scorer at all. But you know, sometimes you need somebody that shows up for the second ball or I don't know, rebound, whatever, and hits that ball home. And I really don't know if Fleming is that player, but it would be great to see her trying to do that, you know. So that's the only thing that we know that her work is silent. She It just speaks on the field, and does she doesn't expect recognition. She's not a flashy player, but she does so many things. But yeah, sometimes that can happen that those kind of players are not game changers, but they are like pivotal for a team to function. So that's the other thing I gotta say about the midfield is it's too young. Like we have these young players, and well, you mentioned one of the players have a MFM has contract until the middle of the year, which is like what 1 month away from the middle of the year, and the other until the end of the year, and then we not we, but the team has left Dana Castellanos, Shea Harvey, and that's it. So even though we've been asking for a defensive midfielder, I think it's not just us. I think that the team itself is asking for it. I mean, another player they can add to this to the midfield because it got pretty thin, and Portland doesn't have much depth there. That's so funny because that was the best line for Portland in the past few years. So yeah, for me it's like what is B plus? Yeah, B or B plus is fine.
Yeah, Melina, we could also talk real quick about these two players, but Mimi, I know Mimi's been kind of rotating between like she played as a 10 a little bit this season or just in wide midfielder or a winger. And then Dana Castellanos has been playing more of a roaming midfielder for this team, sometimes in the front line as well. So it's gonna be curious what like I'll just keep it very short about Dana Castellanos because I think she's from all like purposes and everything that I've seen, at trainings and things, she's been doing everything she's asked of her. You know what I mean? And I love the fact that they've tried to play her as a roaming midfielder because I think she is a playmaker. But I do think her natural instinct is to go at goal, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think for this team, they need to keep the ball more and to for her to be successful, and they just don't. The possession numbers aren't there, and until they can do that, I think Portland would be best to like move on with her, and give her a situation where she can actually excel at what she's doing, right? And I know Rob Gale had his intentions with her last year, where he was like, "Oh, we know where to play her," but then you look at the possession numbers last year; they were terrible. They were like third last, right? And this year they're trending the same way. And without the ball, Dana Castellanos is not as effective, right? And then you look at Mini Ali. I love what she does because she does a lot of the Jesse Fleming hard work, just the pressing and the work rate, things like that. And I feel like she's very close to breaking out a few games where she's like, oh man, if I can just find the back of the net, they will come. You know what I mean? And they just haven't come yet. But I would like to keep Mimi Ali. I think she's very valuable as a like Swiss Army knife type player, Melina, because I think you need players who can play different positions, right? She can play probably like what 6 different positions, right? If you ask her, she probably prefers playing as a 10, and you need backups, there, and it can't just be Renee Lyles, right? So it's interesting. But yeah, Melina, do you agree that, maybe Dana is probably needs a better opportunity moving forward with the team, probably with more possession at this point, or maybe even Europe, right?
Yeah, it's like she has always been this big player, but ever since she got to Portland, she hasn't had the impact we expected her to have. BTW, she just gave Venezuela the opportunity to
Yeah,
qualify for the next World Cup. So that's it was a pretty emotional video, the one I saw
yeah,
on social media. So congratulations to her.
yeah,
And what I like about her, and I think is one of her biggest strengths, is the fact that she can shoot from
yeah,
downtown. She's such powerful like in foot. Yeah, that's the thing I like the most. And I think the Thorns don't usually try to, hit the ball from long
yeah,
distance. So but she's not afraid of that. But the thing is, converting goals from long distance is not something pretty easy to do. So low XG, you won't get it that right most of the time.
yeah. Like you said, she's an inspirational athlete, obviously to many boys and girls across the world, but especially in Venezuela, like you mentioned, like being this close to the World Cup. I know she's dreamt of that moment for like every footballer dreams about that moment their whole lives. You know what I mean? And to kind of see that dream be that close, Melina, it was really special. Like you said, that social media shared that moment and everything, and it's one of those things where you want the best for everyone when you cover them, right? And yeah, it's a like you said, it's a special moment, and it's cool to watch her become the teammate that I think folks always knew she was. You know what I mean? And she's still showing as much joy she possibly can, even with the limited opportunities. So, but in the long, it looks like the long run, especially with the World Cup coming up, she does need minutes, right? She does need to play. And I think Portland's going to do right by her, and it will be good for that to happen. And then let's talk about the Forge, Melina. Um, wow, Pietra Torden tied for the tied for with 3 goals, 4 assists, tied for the assist lead with Olivia Moultrie. Raylan Turner, another 4 goals, no big deal because Raylan Turner just does Raylan Turner things. Soph Wilson, 5 goals, assist, coming back from maternity leave, like wow. I don't know if Portland, like obviously I think they're fading down the stretch of these past few games, Melina, just because there's so many games, right? And they need Kai Hanks back. They obviously Maddie Podolski's rarely played this season, but I do like what I've seen from the young players. I like Podolski. I like what Ali News provided, just with the work rate. And then Marie Mueller, obviously up there. I think that experiment does need to stop, Melina, because she's playing a defensive minded winger, which is interesting because it's just something you don't you when you say it to yourself, you're like, what? There's something wrong with that because I think it provides something different. It helps Sophia Wilson like stay energized as much as possible, not having to press as hard and things like that. But I'm looking at just those 3 main forwards, right, Melina? And I could not be more impressed with what Sophia Wilson's doing, right? Because I think, yeah, she's becoming the focal point of the attack alongside Olivia Moultrie. They're learning how to kind of balance out each other's like, oh, hey, you take over for a little bit, I take over for a little bit. That's what's special with this team, Melina. Those 2 players right there, like you said, it's becoming a lot more Olivia's team, and I think Sophia Wilson loves that, right? Because why? Who's Olivia Moultrie going to look out for mostly? Soph Wilson, right? So I think their chemistry is building so much better. I think what Soph Wilson got to do last year was Melina was to watch all these young players play and kind of know, okay, I'm going to play off of her like this. I'm going to play off of her like this and offer her like this, right? Her chemistry with Livy Moultrie is improving day by day. And then you look at what Pietra Torden has played a little bit of 10 this season with Livy Moultrie out. She's just a football player at this point, right? She's just really good at everything, right? She just like you just know what you're getting from Pietra Torden. And the only thing I worry about is just her legs, right? Just does she have enough in the tank? Because these are just so many grueling games, right? Then you look at Raylan Turner, who's been banged up a little bit this season, but she's provided the aerial presence. She's provided really good speed when it's called upon, right? I think Torden, um, I think Torden needs to be a little bit more clinical in the final third, Melina. Just Raylan Turner's got lot better at her finishing in the final third, which is something you and I talked about before the season. But obviously, Soph Wilson, I think people were waiting for the floodgates to open, Melina, with Soph Wilson, and that's literally what happened, right? So I think for me, I think I gave this group the highest grade because there's not much else you can ask for. And folks who are asking for more, I'm like, okay, like what? So I obviously give them just a straight up A. I think I think the only thing I would like to see more from this group is just better touches in the final third, better decision making in the final third. Obviously you would like to see conversion rates higher, but they've combined for what? We're talking about 5-4-4, like 5-3-4, so 12 goals, and we're talking about a bunch of assists as well. So they've done enough, and that's why Portland's where they are, right? Because they put the output, and I think they lead the league in goals. Obviously, they played more games than most other teams, but you can't really ask for more than that. But Melina, what are your thoughts on the Fords?
Yeah, you cannot argue against the fact that they have scored more goals than any other team in the league, even though they haven't found the back of the net that much lately. It was kind of expected anyways, because they were like taking pretty much all their chances. The only problem I have is that I don't think they're generating enough quality chances. That's my one of the main problems. And the other is that of course, when you have one of the best strikers in the country in your team, you kind of like rely on her too much. So that might be, it might explain why Pietra and Ray Linton, it has been hard for them to find the back of the net lately. Regarding Pietra, she's not the tallest, but I think, like I already mentioned, she needs to use her body a little bit more when she helps to defend or stuff like that, like defensive mode. And like you mentioned, of course, the schedule hasn't been helpful. But the good thing is that Pietra is a young player, so she, let's say she can't take it. Um, Rylan Turner, she has proved that she's kind of a little bit prone to injuries. So yeah, I expect this schedule to take a toll on her. But yeah, the main problem with those two is like they are not producing much in the final third, and that's kind of like kind of worrisome because you cannot expect for Sofia to do all the work in the back of the net. So that's my main problem with it. I would say I will give them an A minus just because, just like with the midfield, you have two great players, but then you have the others that you don't know if they are going to be consistent enough, or if you can rely on them at all. So, well, not at all, but if you can like expect them to contribute to, I don't know, put the ball forward and all those things we already discussed. And with the forwards is the same. And we know that they can have like it happened in the Mark Parsons era, 28 shots and just get one in the back of the net. But the thing with the Mark Parsons era is that you have like how many, 10 or 12 different players that could score. So I like that even though they had great strikers, they didn't rely on just those. Um, and so that's, I think, the problem. You kind of like, I don't expect Pietra to score in all the games, of course, but I expect different players to show up. And so that adds a different layer to the team. And that helps with the team not being that predictable, because most of the time when you see a team playing against the Thorns, it's like, yeah, let's mark Sofia and of course Olivia. And that's another thing when the midfield gets crowded, sometimes Olivia tends to disappear, and that's what you expect, of course, because she's heavily marked. So yeah, that's why the team needs more options over there.
It's interesting because I think like we were mentioning, those options are going to come back very soon, right? We're talking about Kai Hanks, we're talking about Morgan Weaver, the next month or two, it seems like. And for me, I am the most thing, Melina, I'm excited to watch Kai Hanks play with alongside Sophia Wilson because I think Kai Hanks is one of the only players in the league that can keep up with Sophia Wilson's pace on the counter. And they are going to have some two-player counters down the stretch of the season where they just do everything on their own, especially when teams are dead tired and trying to catch up to Portland. They're going to be able to score a bunch of goals. Right now, a lot of it is Sophia Wilson, right? Like, I think Raylan Turner can keep up for the most part, but she's just banged up a little bit right now. Torden, obviously, I think I think she's overthinking a little bit sometimes, right? And it's okay. Like, I think as a young player, you develop that, you get better. Raylan Turner's gotten better. Every single player on this team has gotten better on the front line, and that's what you want, right? And then Melina, let's talk about the coaching situation. So obviously, we were talking about heading into the preseason, it was Vitas and Sarah Loudon. Sarah Loudon was the interim head coach for the third time in her career. And congratulations to Sarah Loudon as well because she just completed what is it, her UEFA Pro license, and she already finished what is it, the U.S. Soccer Federation Pro license. So that's the two highest licenses you can get, I believe, in football in general. And I think she like posted some photos, and then I think Sonia Bonpastor was there too, which is obviously I think a huge name in her own right, obviously. But Sarah Loudon, like I think she was already the youngest coach to get one of those licenses, anyways, right? So it's just one of those things where I'm not surprised. I think Sarah Loudon was chosen to be interim, and the players and the staff, everyone respects her, right? Like Villaham would not have wanted to move on from her when he got here because she is she's brilliant, right? And congratulations to her. I think it's a great accomplishment. Both accomplishments are great. Vitas player development. We've talked about this in the past. Players have raved about him, and that's kind of why those two were doing a really good job. Obviously, Kelly Matt. They had a couple interim assistant coaches, Coach Kelly, and then also Coach Emery Kerr as well. And then now they have Coach Matthias Gustafsson, and then they have Jen Lawler as well. But Villaham's already talking big about Lawler. Melina, like talks about Coach Jen all the time about how she's able to work with the players so closely on a given week, where he knows exactly what he's getting from those players, and those players have gotten opportunities to play Melina, right? We've seen Renee Laus get a few minutes there and there. Jenny Emethan just got a big chunk of minutes, right? So that's what you want to see, especially hearing from your assistant coaches. Uh, and then look at Willem. Well, the one concern I had when he stepped in, obviously, like I think you and I were very honest about what we thought about the hiring. And here's the thing: he's had to earn everything he's gotten this year, especially from our opinions, right? Like we've had to change our opinion day by day. But the one thing I can tell you to lead off, the reason why I'm going to give him a high, this whole coaching stuff a high grade is Willingham has been very upfront about why he does things, right? He's been very refreshingly honest and blunt and straight to the point about things. And he's done it so respectively in the media, whether when he talks about certain tactical decisions, personnel decisions, whatever it is, right? And and it's just a refreshing point of view for me to have, Melina, because I can tell, like, hey, when we talked to Robert Villahamn, he said this, right? And that's what you needed from a head coach, especially for a big market like Portland. And I really enjoyed that. And then the second thing is he didn't overhaul his whole tactics and his whole system in one day, Melina. He steadily have been doing it. You know what I mean? And then he will be very honest about certain things, like, hey, I don't personally care about possession numbers as long as we are getting our opportunities where our pressing triggers are really good. And he's, like even after losses, he's been very, very gracious about losing and giving the other team credit. And I think sometimes the bar got so low from Melina the past few seasons to the point where we have to reset the bar now higher for him. And for me, it's just, and the last thing I'll say is, so I gave them a B plus because I think they've done a lot of really good without a full preseason with the head coach. But with what Sarah Loudon, Vitas, Jen Lawler have, and Matthias and the interim coaches have done with the situation handed to them, Melina, let's be honest, it was not a good situation handed to them, okay? And they've gotten this team to this point of the season where they are looking potentially at maybe a shield, maybe a championship. Just the fact that they're in this discussion, Melina, is pretty insane to me because I had them obviously as a 4 or 5 team, and the fact that they've been at the top for a lot of the season says a lot of what this team's mentality is. And I think a lot of credit has to go to obviously the coaches, but Villahamn has done just kind of since he got here really impresses me. So I gave them a B plus. Like I said, I think tactically there's so many things I'm looking at. The reason why I gave them it obviously could have been a B two, but I think tactically there are things they need to clean up. They need to figure out a way with the personnel that they have or have coming in to play out of the press, Million. They have to because right now every team is just playing the same scouting report playbook against them. And for me, if they can figure that out, the grade will continue to rise as we go. But I think with the summer break, he's going to be able to process all this. And because we have to remember, he's from a human perspective. This is something. This is a coach who's started and he's just been go 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 since, and he probably hasn't taken a day off until this break, the international breaks, right? So that's why I gave them a high grade. It's because and if he overhauled the whole system, I guarantee you this team probably would be fighting for a playoff spot right now, barely, right? And he decided not to do that because he knew that would be not ideal, and he trusted his assistant coaches, and you can tell the results speaks for itself. There's a lot of concerns I still have, especially with the defense. You know what I mean? But for what he has to work with, and we'll lead off into this next episode, Melina, next time. But he needs to have some of his own personnel come in too. You know what I mean? Where he can play his more brand of football. But Melina, what are your thoughts on the coaches so far?
That's weird because, like you said, there are many factors here that, for example, my main thing with Billingham is that I think the team has become predictable because I've seen that against pretty much every team they always use the same tactics. And let's say that's okay because they are in third place and they were first. Like, I don't know. It's fluctuating at this point. So they can go back to the first place anyway. So it's working. But I was thinking that Billingham reminds me a little bit to Marcelo Bielsa. I don't know if the listeners kind of like ring a bell that name as an Argentinian coach that pretty much everybody loves. Wherever team he goes, he kind of like makes them successful at first, and players love them because he's more than a coach. He's like a teacher. Teaches them to not just to play football but to live. So you probably won't hear a single bad thing about him, but, from anybody. But the thing is, after like 2 seasons, his tactics are very easy to read. And so that's why he will end up, looking for another job in another club. So I was thinking that that's maybe what happened with Billingham in Tottenham Hotspur, because the first season he was very successful, but the second one he wasn't. So I'm not saying that's gonna happen with the Thorns, but he's been successful in this first season so far. We don't know what's gonna happen until the end of the year. Hopefully, it will stay like this. Thorns will qualify for another playoff. I don't know how they're gonna do that. Everything will depend on how they end the end of the season. But so far, I think it's been kind of predictable the way the team is playing. But the thing is also is that he hasn't bring to the team any player that he might like so far. So we don't know if the in this window if he's gonna like ask for certain players, and if the board is gonna like say yes, let's bring those players, let's put the money on the table. So there are a lot of factors. But so far the team has been successful, like you mentioned. Sarah Loudon has been a big contributor to the success. So I think a B plus or maybe an A for what they have done so far in such a short time. Um, with the season like starting right away, and Bellingham rushing over to Portland, has been more than okay. I think has been great, and it's always hard to transition from one coach to another. So I think so far the team has been doing well as well. Of course, there are things that need to be done and things that needs to be um, changed. But they have this whole another second part of the season to work on that. So let's see how they finish. But so far, I think the job done has been an A.
Yeah. No, Melina, I'm glad you said all those things because I agree with your sentiment about that because I think there's a lot of concerns that you and I still have, especially tactically. And moving forward, obviously the philosophy, has to be adaptable, right? And he's said a lot of great things where he's like, hey, I want to be more brave of a coach. I want to be able to change things more, be more flexible, things like that. And he's said all the right things. I don't doubt that. I think for us, you and I, this might be a different grade if he had a preseason, but the fact that he's been trying to catch up as he goes. I think that's why you and I have both gave him a higher grade, and and he's worked his tail off to get to this point with the Portland Thorns, right? To get them to this place in the season. But the second half is going to be a lot of pressure on him. Obviously with a big club, like you said, like it's one of those things where if you can see different elements to their games throughout the season, where you're like, huh, like this is something I didn't get to see, at Tottenham, things like that. So that's something to look out for, obviously. But coaching staff has been pretty really stepped up so far. The last thing, Melina, I want to talk to you about is the front office. Jeff Agus, I guess Mike Norris would be part of that as well. And then we're talking also about the ownership group, Lisa Bethal Mirage and Alex Bethal. So let me start off with this. The training facility is going to open up. It's obviously delayed. I think these projects always are delayed. Melina, it feels like in the States they're always delayed, especially with the Portland weather. I assumed it was always going to be a little delayed, but it looks like they're going to open up in the next month or two. I do have the date, but I honestly forgot it, so it's okay. But they're going to open up very soon. I'm looking forward to seeing the facility in person. It's going to be a heck of a drive for me, Melina. It's going to be it takes me about 15, 20 minutes to get to Providence Park. It's going to take me probably double or triple that to get to the new training facility. So it's going to be a lot more driving, especially with the gas prices nowadays, Melina. It is not going to be cheap for me. So tell my managing editor, Sam Spiller, to give me more of a stipend for that purpose. I am not kidding. I think he'll be doing that anyways. But point is, ownership, I obviously they get credit for that. That's something that they promised to deliver on, and they're going to do it. Obviously, the prices have like inflated with all the costs going up and things like that. So that's a great thing. Obviously, getting Sophia Wilson back this season was a big thing. Obviously, I think Portland is okay if Sophia Wilson decides to leave after this season. I know that's not something folks want to hear, but they got her back to come back one season. If they win this season, I feel like so if they're in contenders, like they'll be okay either way. But the one thing I have to say about Jeff Agus is the thing that I think he wanted to bring in more players this winter window, Melina. But but the winter window was so underwhelming to the point where I was very disappointed, right? So I think a lot of folks were disappointed. I'm more disappointed in the fact that when you look at the roster, you know what you kind of need, and he was asking a lot of young players to hit, to be stars again, right? And that's for me, it's you can't just keep buying lottery tickets over and over, scratch it tickets over and over, and expect them to bear fruit all the time. You know what I mean? And I think he did it one too many times. And for me, the reason why I didn't give a lower grade, I am waiting for the summer window to give him. I wish you and I could have waited a little longer, because I feel like there will be something that happens this window. We'll talk about that next episode, like I said. But the winter window is why I lowered the grade. You know what I mean? From the facility, from the ownership, and just obviously I know I'm curious how close they are against the cap. So that's something we'll talk about. But obviously, with Soph Wilson taking a big chunk of that with her salary, I understand it. You know what I mean? But at the same time, you're there's gonna be a lot of players. I think maybe Alexis Fancher might be next to stay with Utah Royals with their run. She's getting good minutes there. But can Portland shed more salary to add another impact player? Right. So that's something I think you and I are looking at. But Jeff Agus, what he did in the winter was not enough. And he may see Bulgaria as a success for us. You and I, we do not see that. She may turn out to be one, which is great. But some of the young players, like we said, like Renee Lyles had moments. Jenny Imethen could turn out to be something, obviously, you know what I mean? But we don't know yet. Like a lot of these are still up in the air. And last year, I know he got almost like immediate dividends, like returns on his investments and things like that. And for me, we haven't seen that this year with his additions, obviously. But getting Sophia Wilson back, the new training facility from the ownership, will ownership be willing to spend this window, Melina? That's the big question, right? Will Jeff Agus bring in players that fit Robert Wilhelm's system, right? That are able to play from the back, are able to elude pressure, are able to play from the back, things like that, right? Is he going to get that, right? And I do like some of the moves he made, right? Like Marie Mueller option being picked up. I like Mackenzie Arnold coming back, Melina. So he's made some good moves. I gave him a B. I gave ownership and him a B minus. And it's more just because it's more like B minus for now. And if they do what we think they should do this summer window, it can move all the way up depending on the name, to like an A minus thing or A even, if they bring in a big name at one of the positions of need. But Melina, that's how I see it. But what are your thoughts on ownership and front office so far?
For me, it's more like a C because I understand that you want to bet on young talent, but I think I've said this before. This is not Barcelona. And I won't say Portland scouts are not good enough, but Barcelona scouts are in a whole another level. I was watching, well, I think folks know that Barcelona, many players are leaving the team for different reasons. And It's like a third of the roster of the starting 11 is leaving. So Barcelona, we know that they had debts and all that, so they cannot afford like to play for top talent and ask give the players the what they are demanding regarding money. And but they have such a good eye for young players. It's amazing. And I was watching the other day this player Lota Vrede. I don't know if that's how her name is pronounced, but she's like a young Caroline Graham Handsome. So it's amazing. She's just a left winger instead of a right winger. And she's so young. So unless they bring players like that, but not even that, because I was thinking Europe is a whole different thing. They're not as physical. So even if they bring a young talent like that one, it will be hard for her to get used to the physicality. So it would take some time for her to adjust. Um, for me, well, you know that from the get-go, I wasn't very happy with the ownership because they're more like business people than people that make business plus know the sport. So that is showing. And congratulations on the new facility because I know that must have cost a lot of money. So I know that the ownership wants to do good and give the players the best, but you can tell when they don't, they know just about the business part. And like you mentioned before, that's why they hired JF Agas. But still, I don't think betting on only on young talent is enough for a team that wants to reach playoffs and then win the playoffs. Because we know that for Portland, reach the playoffs is not enough, it's just the norm. So they want another championship. And I think for what we have seen so far in the NWSL, they are in a good position to compete for it. But to win it, not yet. And that will depend on what kind of signings they make during this winter window. That's the word.
Summer window, I guess. Yeah.
Summer window. For me, it's winter. Sorry,
Oh, that's
it's
true.
summer
That's
for you
true.
guys. Yeah,
But
yeah.
But Melina, no, I appreciate you hopping on this episode with me. We went through all the lines, we went through ownership, we went through coaches, things like that. And for me, obviously we'll get into the summer targets for the window and everything for the transfer window. But for me, I'm glad you brought up a lot of those points because obviously I had the rate fluctuating back and forth between the C and the B range, and and for me when I turned in my report card to Sam, I think one of the biggest things is we are looking at it from an ambition standpoint too, because Portland Thorns, you are not allowed to be complacent ever, right? Whether your ownership, coaches, whatever, like that. Um, so I'm curious what the message is, because they have a roster, Melina, they need one or two pieces, right? You could probably make do with one big piece, but they need that final piece if they're going to try to win this season, right? We're talking about not just winning, we're talking about playing Robert Williams style of football. We're talking about playing Portland Thorns football. We're talking about the ambitious. When you buy a team like this, we haven't even talked about the Portland Fire yet, who have succeeded a lot of expectations, Melina. And I'm excited to I just haven't had time to set up an interview with my guests, but once we do, it will be a good interview, obviously, just to kind of start off the season going up until now. But there's a lot of great pieces in Portland already for the Fire, and it's exciting to watch what they're doing. But Portland, like obviously they're an expansion team. That makes sense for them to do that, Melina. But you're the Portland Thorns who are expected to compete day in day out. This summer window is going to tell you everything you need to know about the ownership and the front office, right? Are they ambitious? We'll find out. So be sure to tune in to our next episode as we go over some of our targets, obviously, for the summer window. It's going to be a very influential one for Portland Thorns. It's going to be interesting to see how ambitious they are, what they're looking at, you know what I mean? And for us as reporters and for us, when we do our analyze analysis, we want to make sure we're looking into previous film studies, and Melina's done that for us every single week of the season already, and so we know exactly what types, what fits that needs to happen. And it's gonna be interesting to see kind of what Melina comes up with for her list. Obviously, we're gonna share a little bit there. I will have my own list as well, but be sure to tune into that next episode. If you are a paid subscriber, thank you so much for supporting our work. I took a few weeks off on a little. I don't think I left, but I just like had to reset my mind, and that was really nice. Got to spend time with friends and family. And I know Melina got a little breather as well, but she's been busy too. But yeah, we'll be back next week with a great episode. I promise you, it's going to be one of our better ones for sure. And then, like I said, we'll continue. We'll try to set up the Portland Fire interview as soon as we can. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back again soon.